Thank you for watching CTR TV and our Capital Conversation. I'm Christy Olds. Today we're talking with the Speaker of the House, Joe Aresimowicz. Joe, you're from Berlin. You're the Speaker of the House. Your second year now as Speaker of the House. Before that, served as Majority Leader.
I did.
Representative since 2004. First off, let's talk about your hometown.
Berlin.
Berlin.
Love that town.
You've been there your whole life.
Yeah, I represent Southington too, but my hometown is Berlin. Went through the school system. My kids, one has gone through the school system. The other two are on their way through it now. So yeah, it's my town. I coach football there too, which is a big passion of mine. But it really is a great town. It's a central Connecticut town.
Why do you stay there?
It's the connection to the community. It's the school system. We have really low crime rate. I think that's very important too. And it gives you that sense of community. It's the typical New England small town. You know, we have the Congregational Church on the hill. You have the community center. You have the Lions Club. We have our yearly Berlin Fair. It is Connecticut.
Okay. You are heading into your second year as Speaker. Last year
feels like fourth or fifth. You know,
well, that was the point I was going to make. Last year was a really tough, long budget year. What did you take away from that maybe can apply to this session?
Hopefulness. What we did last year had never been done before. It was a bipartisan budget that the Republicans were at the table with us. We went through each and every line item, had discussions, had policy differences, but we were all willing to compromise. So I left that process tired, extremely tired, but extremely hopeful. For a little while, I was thinking, do I run for re-election again? Is Hartford ever going to change? And what I learned in the last session, it can change. If you have people that are willing to put their name on the line, be really patient and work in a bipartisan way, Hartford can change. And I look forward to changing more of it this year and obviously run for re-election, hopefully be Speaker again and make more changes.
Okay, let's talk about the election. It's a big election cycle. We have the gubernatorial race, all the legislative races. What is going to kind of lead the direction? What's going to lead the election cycle?
I think it's going to be a vision. What is your vision for the state? State of Connecticut hasn't done a great job of defining what it wants to be. It jumps from area to area. Governor from governor comes in and it changes. So I'm telling everybody, whoever you support for a governor, ask what their vision is. What are they willing to do to make sure that vision happens? And it has to be a 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan, not just, hey, let's try this year. So I think it's going to come down to the election for governor, state senate, and the House. What does your vision look like for the state of Connecticut? And we're going to have 6, 7 months to articulate that vision, and then hopefully 2 years to execute it.
Before we can even talk about elections, we have to get through this session.
Yes.
What would be your priority, particularly in regards to things that impact real estate?
I think workforce development. I've always said we're not going to tax our way out of this problem. We have to grow our economy. We're doing a great job in a lot of areas, but we can do better. Our technical schools, our community colleges, aren't as connected with businesses as they could be. I pushed really hard last year and was successful at pulling the technical schools out from underneath the Department of Ed because it was a bureaucracy. It took too long for them to adjust their programs to give the employers of the state what they needed. So that'll start happening next year. The technical schools is an important leeway into our community colleges. We have to have the curriculum there that picks up where they left off. I've been working with Marco Jakian and the Board of Regents to do that. So it's really the old line, it's the economy, stupid. The economy grows, we're all better off. There's more income into the stream, people are purchasing more, and quite specifically, people are buying houses. When they have money, they'll buy houses.
Kind of helps, right?
It does. Well, I guess some buy it without money, but that never ends well for anybody.
Okay. Last year, the budget, there were proposals that included increasing the conveyance tax and adding a tax on second homes and investment properties. Mm-hmm. Those didn't make it into the final budget that was passed eventually. Do you think they're going to come back again this year, and will they have support?
It's interesting. I always say I'm open to a discussion on anything. I don't know if they'll come back specifically, but the second home bill that was there, and it was a tax, let's call it what it was a second home tax. We are looking at other states, and other states offer what's called a homesteader exemption. If you're over a certain age and that's your primary resident, you get reduced taxes. We can't just offer that in the state of Connecticut. The taxes go to the municipality, and if we're going to make that hole in their budget, we'd have to replace it with something. So that was the thought. I don't think it was thought out very well. There wasn't enough details. We didn't bring other people to the table to find out what the impact would be, whether it was the realtors specifically, whether we'd see this mass infusion of vacation homes and it would just water down the market and prices would drop. So if we're going to do something like that again, we really have to have more discussions. Have you a part of the discussion, the realtors a part of the discussion, and then move forward.
Let's talk about the conveyance tax.
Yeah.
It's in the governor's proposal that he released at the beginning of the session. Do you support it? Do you see it coming out in the Democratic proposal as well?
I don't believe it will. The governor has a tough job. I've disagreed with him over many things over the past, well, now 7 years. But he's amazingly consistent. He has his proposals, he believes what he believes, and he moves forward with it, and you have to respect that. But that's why there's the legislative process. We take his proposal, we go through it, and we'll see what makes it to the end. I know there's very little appetite within my caucus, and me personally, for the conveyance tax increase.
What is going to be the biggest priority for you this session, kind of talking about home buying, home prices, real estate?
We need to look at some of our regulations too. Part of the problem is you have developers that want to put money in. They look at the Department of Transportation. If they have to do a road cut in, the process it takes for them to get up and running. There was an investor that was building a large property in Southington right on Queen Street. It was months that his plan sat over at DOT waiting for approval. We need to look at that. We have to ensure that our town's plan of conservations are updated, that they have the developable area, not just trying to block everything off to keep kids out of the school. Those are a couple of common sense steps we can do through the Planning and Development Committee. But I fall back to the economy. If we're moving jobs here, Henkel Corporation down in Stamford brought in 250 people from Scottsdale, Arizona. I had the pleasure of going around and talking to them, and I was asking them all, oh, did you move to Connecticut? I apologize for our winter, but you like us in the summer. We're never going to get to 110. I don't know if I should have said that. We might, but it doesn't happen often. But they bought houses in Wilton, New Canaan, Greenwich. So those are upper end towns to where, you know, those are very good home prices. We have to do more of that. Getting companies to come here will improve the housing market, put more money in the economy.
Speaking of transportation, the governor also put out his plan for moving our transportation system forward. What do you think of what he proposed? Or what do you think is the path we should take?
So my path is different than most. All of our neighboring states have what's called the Transportation Authority. That pulls the debt for transportation off of the state's books. It also allows them to prioritize projects and come up with ways to fund them. Could it be tolls? Yes. I do believe that we should have tolls in the state of Connecticut. I drive around every day of the week. I drive around on weekends and I see the Massachusetts plates, the New York plates, the Rhode Island plates, the New Jersey plates. We can keep going. Every time I drive through their states, or even if I just cross a bridge, I went to JFK and I think I paid $14 one way and $14 on the way back. But yet they're getting a free ride through Connecticut. We need to do something about that. We can't just do border tolls, it's very clear, but we can do some congestion pricing and we can do tolls away from the border. And the residents of Connecticut say, well, that's going to impact me adversely. I travel every day, you're going to get them once in a while. Well, we can do the Easy Pass discount. If they buy their Easy Pass in the state, we can reduce the price. We also can give them a transportation credit on their income tax to get it to a level to where they're not paying much more than the out-of-state people are. That's where we want to get the money from.
Do you think you'll have support for that?
I hope so. Tolls will go up on the board in the House. I've already promised that, regardless of what the votes are. It's an important enough issue to where the voters of the state of Connecticut deserve to see where their state representative is on the issue. They deserve to hear the debate. They need to hear the facts. There's a lot of misinformation. Quote, so-called think tanks are putting out information. A lot of it's inaccurate. So on the House floor, hopefully we'll have an honest debate about it. We can look at what money it'll bring into the state. The reality is the Special Transportation Fund will be broke in 2020. Go to the little structures behind the state capitol. They're working on them now, but there's many X's and squares where they have to take out the concrete and replace it. I don't know about you, but it's a raised structure. That makes me a little bit nervous coming through each and every day. Our roads need work, and they need work now. And we have to have a plan to do it. So if you're opposed to tolls, I'm happy to listen to what else we could do. If you're opposed to the governor's gas tax increase, or I think there was a tax on tires, Tell me what your ideas are. I want to hear it, but you can't just say we're going to put it on the credit card. That's how we've gotten in this mess in the state of Connecticut, is not paying our bills and putting it on the credit card.
Okay. If people want to express their opinions about any proposal that's on the table, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you specifically or in general with the legislature?
Email is great. My email at the state capitol is joe.aresimowicz@cga.ct.gov. A phone call. I have the phone there. I get messages daily. I return phone calls. Or I do a lot of coffee and conversations in the district, just meeting with folks in my district. I get folks that come outside of the district. I guess that's the plus and the minus. Being the Speaker of the House, my district just gets bigger. I still have Berlin and Southington that I represent, but I also have to be the voice around the state. And I want to be the voice of the cheerleader for the state of Connecticut. I think we're doing a lot of things great. This is a great state, great schools, great recreation, safety. We have a lot of things going for us. We just got to get out there and talk about it more, and we got to get the confidence back in the market. I think that's the biggest thing that realtors feel, is the lack of confidence. Folks aren't sure what's happening in the state of Connecticut. So let's lay out a vision. I swear, regardless of political party, to work whatever governor gets in, whoever the members of the House are, the Senate, let's come up with a vision. Let's make sure we're moving Connecticut in the right direction.
You mentioned being Speaker and having to essentially represent a larger district. How difficult is that? I mean, you're obviously, Berlin is your home, you have Southington, but now you're talking to a larger audience.
It's a balancing act. I think it is with anything. All of us are representatives of our district, but we're here to solve the state's problem. We saw that with the city of Hartford this year. Facing bankruptcy would have had a ripple effect not only through our economy, but our municipality's ability to bond, and we had to react. Is it necessarily what we all wanted to do, is to, cut a check to Hartford for $40 million? No, but I think we saw the necessity of it, and we moved forward with it. It's a balancing act. The issues in Bridgeport and New Haven and Hartford are very different from my district, but without having vibrant economic urban centers, we're going to struggle as a state. Massachusetts, I think years ago, they were struggling. They've revamped their education system. They're having investments into their cities, and their economy's growing. New York, many years ago, right, folks were living in Connecticut, just going into the city. Now folks want to live in the city because there's been investments. Our problem, part of our problem, is what have we done in our cities? What is our identity? The yard goats are great, I guess. They came from New Britain. But at least that's establishing identity. It's bringing people into the city. Front Street, when it was first, the convention center in Front Street, everybody says, oh, it's a waste of money. It's bringing people in now. We have to make investments.
And like you said, it has a ripple effect throughout.
It does, it does. Connecticut Fast Track. My son and his friends get on Fast Track and come into Hartford, whether it's for a concert or whether it's for dinner. Now finally it's gotten through people's heads, you shouldn't drink and drive, all right? We've reduced those stats. Fast Track helps with that, Uber helps with that, but Fast Track is a great way to get into the city, enjoy the city, and then get out at night. And that's what the millennials, or whatever they're calling these young people now, I feel weird, 47 years old saying that, but that's what they want. They want ease of transportation.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do when you're outside the Capitol. Yeah. You touched on it briefly. You're very involved with youth sports, particularly football, the head coach at Berlin High School.
I am.
Why do you do this? I mean, it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment and a lot of Friday nights and a lot of practices.
That's my connection to the community, and quite honestly, that's my mental break. The connection with the kids. I genuinely love the kids. I was at the high school this morning, seeing the kids. They come out and they smile and say, "Hey, coach." You can't replace that. We lost a coach in Berlin, Coach Day, longtime wrestling and football coach, just last night. And I put something up on Facebook with a little quote that says, a coach will touch and impact more people's lives in a year than some people do in a lifetime. So they impact my life the same way. So if we're both getting a positive effect out of it, Berlin, they require me to win too, which is always helpful. We made the playoffs a couple of years, but it's about the kids and making sure they have a positive experience and learn some life lessons.
And luckily, usually the legislative session doesn't go into football season.
It did this time, but you know, I became quite adept at changing into a sweatshirt and shorts, throwing my whistle on, running out of the Capitol, but then coming back for the budget meetings. It was a balance this year, but luckily I have really good people in both areas helping me. Other legislators and the staff at the Capitol, and then I have some of the best assistant coaches in the whole state. My mother always told me, specifically surround yourself with really smart and good women, do whatever they say and you'll be okay. I've taken it a step further. I just try to surround myself with really good and really smart people and I'll be okay. So I'm lucky.
Okay, you talk a lot about Berlin. What's your sales pitch? If someone is considering moving there, buying a home, what's your sales pitch?
Geographical center of the state. You can get everywhere in the state of Connecticut almost in equal time. And we have a lot of great resources. Our school system is second to none. The football program is pretty good at the high school level and the youth level. And there's a sense of community. When something happens and you want that support system, whether you've lived in the town your whole life or you've just gotten to the town will turn out and support you. A few years ago, we had a young girl that was struggling with cancer. We did a full parade with a horse-drawn carriage and then sent her off to Walt Disney World for a great vacation. Just a week ago, we had a mother who just moved to town fairly recently, a couple kids in the school. She fell ill, and we were dropping meals off at the house. That's what it is. A community isn't just where your home happens to be. A community is the support system around you, the feeling that you get when you're in the town, and that's Berlin. So we'd love to have you. It's true for first-timers to the town or people that have been there their whole life.
Going back to one issue, there's a commission right now looking at the fiscal stability of the state, the Economic Commission as well. What do you hope comes out of that commission? They're making recommendations to the legislature. What do you hope to learn from them? I
hope it's well-rounded advice to where it really looks at all the areas. Education, finance, economic opportunities. There's some really smart, dedicated people. They're putting a lot of time into it. We hope for them to come out with some recommendations that we can adopt. And some maybe we have further discussions, but really to show us what they think. It's an independent outsider's look. Hopefully they're not influenced by outside organizations. You know, I know everybody's pulling on them, but I think they've given everybody equal opportunity to have discussions. So I'm hopeful they'll come up with a plan that we can implement.
And their recommendations come to the legislature for you guys to review? And
yeah, it'll go to the committee process. The committee process is one of the things I hold near and dear to my heart. It's the public's opportunity to weigh in on proposed legislation before it's on the board. In years past, when I wasn't the Speaker of the House, we'd have bills moving forward at midnight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, some with little or no public hearing. So I asked my chairs this year and last year, whatever you're going to put forward, make sure it gets a public hearing. I also made sure that we're not in after midnight. I think 3 times last year we were in after midnight as opposed to 10 or 20 times. And the 3 times were because we ran over, not because we started late. And start on time. If the public's going to watch the House session, you say you're going to be in at 10 o'clock, you start at 10 o'clock. So those things help with the transparency. And when those ideas come to the committee, I want them to be transparent. I want them to go to the committees that are necessary. I want the public hearings, and then move it forward to the House.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, it's just great being here. I think anytime I can get out and talk about how great the state of Connecticut is, I want to take advantage of it.
Okay. Joe, thank you for being with us on our Capital Conversation here on CTR TV. Again, Speaker of the House Joe Aresimowicz, representing Berlin and Southington. Yeah. Don't forget them.
Please.
I'm Christy Olds. You're watching CTR TV.